Hi. So exactly 1 year ago, I decided to make this monument of a drawing for whatever reason. And while I did make a video about it, this year I'm going to go step by step and explain my reasons behind the designs I made and exactly what all of it means. Hope you enjoy. And I have a new mic. Ironically, I didn't use it for this recording, but what are you gonna do? Dashie's clothes are a play on Mario's design, a red hoodie and blue shorts. Dashie's side of the story I pictured to be more of the adventure heavy side of the genre. Like, yeah, he plays a lot of different games, definitely a lot of weird games, but Dashie's gaming channel I think blew up on horror and Nintendo games, and personally I learned about Dashie through his skits and his Nintendo games, and Nintendo games are really adventure oriented. I have Dashie in shorts to contrast Cory's jeans, but it's also really a callback to when he used to wear shorts all the time in his skits. And when I think of adventure, I think shorts for some reason. As for the sleeveless hoodie, well, Swole Dashie likes to show off the arms, so... I'll come back to the gloves a little bit later, but I gave him some utility pockets to carry adventure stuff in, and a side piece on his other side. And while I didn't portray it in the drawing, Dashie's gun and Cory's gun are two matching sets, so it's to symbolize their friendship and that they're stronger together and whatnot. Speaking of Cory, his fit is influenced by the cyberpunk aesthetic. Did I mention that this story would be taking place in a futuristic setting? This story that's completely in my head. Not as grungy or depressing as traditional cyberpunk, but there's some tech and fantasy stuff like dinosaurs that's gonna be littered around. So it's not our modern era. Just wanted to make that clear. But for the adventure type Dashie, Cory would be the action type character, wielding his katana around because do I even need to explain that?
I said, Samurai, stand up!
His whole color scheme stems from the blue on his profile picture, so I just built off of that, added yellow and grays and really more muted compared to Dashie. And to give more of the samurai feel, I gave him some arm plates, and those brick-like patterns you see on his hoodie is to invoke the feeling of samurai armor. Same with his knee braces. And even a year ago, I wasn't exactly 100% confident with Cory's design. With Dashie's, it can be changed too, but especially for Cory. If I were to redraw this or just draw Cory again, I'd definitely update the samurai look, at least from the lower half. My experience turning the PS5 into people, link in the description, exposed me to some really cool streetwear, and I think that would look really cool and a lot better than what I drew here. But I'm not putting it down because I still really like how everything turned out. Now onto the background, which honestly I think is the real star of the drawing. I'm really proud of it. I don't usually do backgrounds when I'm drawing, which is something I'm trying to fix. So to see how this drawing came out and how well it came out, I really like it. I think I started left to right like a true American, and yeah, top to bottom, left to right. So upper left first, and upper left is
Lucky McCoy, and I'm in the mood.
I don't really remember why I chose Lucky. He's the latest in Dashie's Rogues Gallery, but you can tell it's Lucky McCoy based on the little clover pin on his cufflink. I think in the final you can't really see it, but I'm gonna show the background by itself and then I'll show the foreground by itself so you can see the full thing. But yeah, he's the last member of Dashie's Rogues Gallery, and to me he'd be one of the overarching villains in this whole made-up story that does not exist. I think he'd be a well-loved, famous personality, but secretly evil. Where haven't we heard that before? I think in this world he'd still be a game show host, but he rose to fame to become something more. In this world, he's the CEO of Clover Corp, a corporation that owns arcade casino franchises across the city, and a large investor in everything else, in high-end technologies, bioengineering, etc., etc. I was originally going to include monkeys at the bottom of his section of the drawing as part of the whole high-end technologies, bioengineering thing, but I replaced them with arcades because I just couldn't draw them. But they were supposed to look like the little tiny toy Marios in Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the DS. I think that's what it was called. If not, I'll just put it up on screen. As for why Dashie has beef with him, I think part of it is that he sees through his facade. Kind of like how it's just a play on how he acts when he actually plays Family Feud.
Where's Steve?
For a deeper reason, I guess Lucky probably rigs the arcades so that the house always wins, you know, arcade casino. And maybe Dashie kept track of his change in persona because he wasn't always, you know, this money-hungry, power-hungry tyrant. As for what caused him to change, well, that'd be
Tina.
The other overarching villain in the story. The lady standing so comfortably next to him. In this world, she's a mysterious woman that has some sort of history with Dashie. As to what that history was, well, Dashie never actually explains it. Tina's definitely the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. Like, yeah, Lucky's the figurehead, and he is, in fact, CEO. He does have a whole company, but she's the one who got into Lucky's head and used him to build up the money and the power in the shadows, and persuades him to make the moves that he does. As for why she does that, maybe or maybe not Satan related. In fact, I'm pretty sure she's working with Satan. I'm pretty sure she's working with Satan. And if that's true, then he'd be the ultimate bad guy in the story. Or some sort of Satan equivalent. Maybe not the actual devil, but something close enough. Either could work. I mean, it's all cheesy, campy stuff. As for my choice in design for her, well, Lucky already has a design, so all I did was just draw him like how he is in the game. But for Tina, I wanted her to be more of the seductress type character, and I really modeled her after Sedusa and Miss Bellum from Powerpuff Girls. Now I remember why I chose Lucky for this whole thing. He and Tina are two of the very few non-copyrighted characters that Dashie has beef with. So I either didn't have to change anything, or I could just make stuff up just out of the blue. That can't be said for Yoshi, who I'm not going to talk too much about because I already made a whole video dedicated just about him. So definitely go and check that one out. But as for his role in this story, he would be Dashie's traveling companion, just like how he's Mario's traveling companion in Super Mario. And he'd also be his mode of transportation outside of the city and just an all-around supporting character. I picture, for the setting besides just it being cyberpunk aesthetics, I picture the city being the futuristic aspect and the outside is like the Wild West. Not just the Wild West, the desert, like I picture jungles and stuff. Technology is within the city, within the cities, within the towns where civilization lives. But outside of it, you have more fantasy elements. At least that's what I remember when I was drawing this initially. And I don't have a good segue for this, so I'm just going to go to Edward Norton.
Police arrested
Edward Norton
yesterday after a domestic incident.
I also talked about him in the Cory comic video. Yeah, I have a lot of videos that I'm promoting. It's my channel. Deal with it. And since he's the only villain on Cory's channel, he had to be there. In fact, the only person who isn't a villain in the background is Yoshi. And I guess if I were to remake it with just the villains, maybe I put Fox? Nah, Yoshi's staying there. So you can't see much of him in the drawing, especially towards the final, but he looks just exactly like Cory. The only difference is that he has braids instead of where Cory has, you know, his afro out. In this world, he's also Cory's arch nemesis, and I think him to be the anti-Cory, but he copies him in certain ways. Like for instance, Cory has a katana while Eddie has dual-wielding combat knives. The reason why he has combat knives is because he was wearing that military gear the first time we saw him. So he has that, and he also wears camouflage. But I think I made them, in my head at least, I made them more purplish. Like I said, he's an anti-Cory, but he also still copies him. So he wouldn't be the exact opposite, like he would wear orange where Cory wears blue, but he would have an adjacent color. And I think purple is the best option. I really like the detail on his hat. The initials Edward Norton are modeled after the New Era logo, which I think is pretty cool. And it has the little devil horns, in case you didn't know that he was evil. I also really like the samurai mask on him. It was supposed to be something he wears to mock Cory's, but it looks a lot better on him. I don't even know what the purpose of Cory's mask is besides just looking cool. If you have an idea, let me know. As for his tie-in with the story, with the other characters, I don't think he has a connection with Tina or Lucky, but I mean, it's a possibility. Or maybe sometime down the road, he could team up with a clone Dashie. Or I can also add some horror related stuff. I actually forgot at the time I was drawing this that he was made during Spooky Scary Sunday. So kind of a missed opportunity, but if I ever revisit this, that's something I can explore. Now last but not least is Donkey.
You bitch!
And he's the one that you can barely see at all. And I think part of the reason for that was because I didn't know how to design him to be copyright free like I did with Yoshi. But I knew I still wanted him in the drawing because if that's not Dashie's biggest op, I don't know who is. So here he's a cyborg ape whose creation was funded by the Clover Corp. Hence why he has the clover symbol on his scouters. Him being there also was supposed to tie into the whole little monkey toys. But like I said, I changed it to arcades. But I think the toys are supposed to be modeled after Diddy Kong. And Donkey Kong would be the final version. And I think after he fights this cyborg donkey, Dashie would finally confront Lucky. And maybe it's revealed then that Tina is behind it too. And yada yada yada, yada yada yada. Alright, I can't think of anything else to say about the background, so I'll just go back to the powers. Now, the powers the main characters have are tech-based. Still trying to drive home that cyberpunk theme. For Dashie's case, the power comes from his gloves, and that was also inspired by Super Mario, with his power gloves. Now, I don't remember exactly how that was related to Mario, but I think it was this really loose connection to when Mario uppercuts, when he jumps. I think that was a connection. I really don't remember. It's been a year. But the power gloves are basically he can throw powerful punches. I think somewhere, either in a video or on an Instagram post, Dashie once said that he wanted to box, or I completely made that up. But either way, that's what his power is. I was also going to include his voice being a superpower, like sound was his power and it's just really really loud, but I didn't know how to incorporate that with tech. And if anyone can think of a way to do that, please let me know, because I think that would be a lot better suited to Dashie. But anyways, the reason why they're colored orange is because orange is his favorite color, and oranges.
It's with an A!
For Cory's powers, I'm just going to touch up on it a little bit because I want to make a separate video for that as well. So his powers come completely from his sword, and the sword is called either the RBG or the RGB. So Cory's sword has 3 modes, or 3 use cases, and they're all colored red, green, and blue, hence why it's called RGB. The reason why I'm switching back and forth between RBG and RGB is because RBG sounds like RPG, and that's something he sometimes says whenever he gets really into something. But honestly, either way works because both of them mean the same thing. I showcased the red ability in the Cory comic, which is an offensive type mode, and the green ability here is called Mo mode, which is a nod to his plant Momo. And this one is a defensive / supportive type mode. So I talked a lot about the whole drawing, why I chose the characters I chose, why I chose the designs I chose, but I don't think I really got into the plot of the story. And that's because I don't know.
Is this nigga serious?
If I did, I never wrote it down, which faux pas on my part. But this to me was, at least at the time, my most ambitious illustration that I did in a while. And while I can't remember or never thought of a story, the reason why I did this is because I wanted to make a poster dedicated to Cory and Dashie and make it as epic as how the fans feel whenever they collab. And that's what I always keep in mind whenever I'm doing these YouTuber drawings. It's for the fans. Don't get me wrong, it's for the YouTubers as well, and I hope they see it as well. But as a fan, you would watch and rewatch your favorite videos, your favorite moments, right? Well, that's what I try to incorporate into these fan-made things, because I'm a fan too, and I want to incorporate my favorite moments, or the best lore possible. That's another way of looking at it, and that's exactly how I interpret these favorite moments, their lore. And throughout this drawing, I try to fit in as much channel lore from Cory and Dashie as possible without it being too overwhelming. I wanted it to be like a little Easter egg hunt for the fans. And after 36 hours of some very unnecessary fixation, this behemoth came into existence. I hope whoever watches this enjoys and doesn't think I'm too crazy. I've mentioned that if I were to redo this or revisit this, I'll change some things, but I don't know when that would be or if I ever would come back and revisit this. But it was fun to draw, and it was a really good experience, especially when it came to making something with a background. It's actually one of my favorite drawings I've done in the past couple of years. But yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. Thank you again for watching. I hope this entertained you somehow. I hope this tickled a funny bone if you're a Dashie or a Cory fan. And until the next video, bye.
Oh, yo, I shot you. I'm down. Two twin brothers just killed me. I'm your boy, right? I'm supposed to be your boy. Okay. That's clean. Yeah, we really got the knife right there, boy.
Oh, by the way, go check out my store, B&tch A. Bye.